chance yet.
If I could just finish,
it
sir,
will happen.
you're going to get hit with a blizzard of subpoenas on everything from the Russia
then everything's
investigation
gonna come. Okay.
to your cell phone use.
Are you prepared to go on a shutdown strategy during the lame duck, since this might be your last best chance
Not necessarily.
to
my
secure
best
that?
sense.
Do they have long-term job
I'd
security?
rather answer that at a little bit different time.
You told me the other day that you are an open book. So
I think I am an open book.
so that means if the audit is still on, you will not turn over the tax returns, or you'll fight
When
to
it's
block
under
it.
audit, no, nobody would.
One, I was tempted to ask you why you like Oprah so much, but I think I'll go on to the question that.
Why do I like Oprah? What kind of a question is that?
Yeah, I'm just asking, just curious. But
He's
the real
He's a
question,
comedian here.
the real question
I
is,
do like Oprah, by the way. I do.
Are you offering an my way or highway scenario to the Democrats? You're saying that
Negotiation. Not at all.
if they start investigating you, that you can play that game and investigate
Better
them.
than them.
Can you compartmentalize
And I think I
that?
think I know more than they know.
Challenge you on one of the statements that you made in the tail end of the campaign in the midterms. That
Here we go.
That, well, if
Let's
you don't
go.
mind,
Let's
Mr.
go.
President,
Come on.
that this caravan was an invasion. As you know,
I
Mr. President,
consider it to be an
As you know,
invasion.
Mr. President, the caravan was not an invasion. It's a group of migrants moving up from Central America towards the border with the U.S.
Thank you for telling me that. I appreciate it.
Why did you characterize it as such?
Because I consider it an invasion. You and I have a difference of opinion.
But do you think that you demonized immigrants in
Not
this
at all.
election
No, not
to
at all.
try to keep?
I want them to come into the country, but they have to come in legally. You know, they have to come in, Jim, through a process. I want it to be a process, and I want people to come in, and we need the people.
Your campaign.
Wait. You know why we need the people, don't you? Because we have hundreds of companies moving in. We need the people.
But your campaign had an ad showing migrants climbing over walls and
Well,
so
that's
on.
true.
But
They weren't actors.
They're not going to be doing
They
that.
weren't actors. Well, no, it's true. Do you think they were actors? They weren't actors. They didn't come from Hollywood. These were people. This was an actual. You know, it happened a few days ago, and
They're hundreds of miles away, though. They're hundreds and hundreds of
you know
miles
what?
away.
I
That's
think
not an
you
invasion.
should- honestly, I think you should let me run the country. You run CNN,
All right.
and if you did it well, your ratings
Let
would
me
be
ask,
much
if
better.
I may
Okay,
ask
that's
one other
enough.
question, Mr. President. If I may
Right,
ask
Peter,
one
go
other
ahead.
question, are you worried?
That's enough. That's
Mr.
enough.
President,
That's
I was going
enough.
to ask one of the other folks. have
That's
had-
enough.
Pardon me, ma'am. Mr.
Excuse
President,
me. That's enough.
Mr. President, I had one other
Peter,
question,
let's
if
go.
I may ask, on the Russia investigation. Are you concerned that you may have?
I'm not concerned
indictments-
about anything with
that you
the
may have
Russian
indictments coming down?
investigation because it's a hoax.
Are you-
That's enough. Put down the mic.
Mr. President, are you worried about indictments coming down in this investigation?
Mr. President.
I'll tell you what, CNN should be ashamed of itself having you working for them. You are a rude, terrible person. You shouldn't be working for CNN. Go ahead.
I think that's unfair.
You're a
I've
very
worked-
rude person. The way you treat Sarah Huckabee is horrible. And the way you treat other people are horrible. You shouldn't treat people that way. Go ahead. Go ahead, Peter, go ahead.
In Jim's defense, I've traveled with him and watched him. He's a diligent reporter who busts his
Well, I'm
butt
not a
like the
big
rest
fan
of
of
us.
yours either, so
I understand.
to be honest.
So let me ask you a question if I can. You repeatedly
you
said,
aren't the best.
Mr. President, you repeatedly, over the course
Okay,
of the...
just sit down, please. Well, when you report fake news, when you report fake news, which CNN does a lot, you are the enemy of the people. Go ahead.
Mr. President, over the course of the last several days of the campaign, sir, at the end of the campaign, you repeatedly said that Americans need to fear Democrats. You said Democrats would unleash a wave of violent crime that endangers families everywhere. Why are you
Because
pitting
they're very weak on
Americans?
crime.
Why are
Excuse
you
me.
pitting Americans
Peter.
against one another, sir?
Peter, what are you trying to be him?
No, I'm
Peter,
just
let
asking
me
the question.
Let me just tell you.
But the question,
Okay,
to be clear,
go ahead.
to be clear, though, the question,
Thank you
sir,
very
is
much.
why are you?
Sit down,
But the
Peter.
question, but you didn't answer my question. Just very simply, the question is, why are you pitting Americans against one another, sir?
I'm not.
Is that how you view
No, I'm not.
citizens
Well,
of
look,
this country?
I'll tell you what. Go
You
ahead.
said you would sign an executive order on
ahead.
birthright citizenship. Are you still going to sign the executive order on birthright citizenship
You'll
this
ask
week?
me that question a little bit later. Go ahead.
The investigation by the special counsel Robert Mueller has been going on since last spring. It's been over your
It's been
head.
a long time.
Yeah, it's been over your head, over Republicans' head during the midterms as well. So, Mr. President, if it's
Go ahead.
Mr.
No,
President,
no.
just wait,
Please.
just a moment. If it's unfair to the country and it's costing millions of dollars, why don't you just
Give him the
end
mic,
it?
please. I've answered the question. Well, I'll give you I will give you voter suppression. You just have to sit down, please. Sit down. I didn't call you. I'm not responding. I'm responding to. Excuse me. I'm not responding to you. I'm talking to this gentleman. Will you please sit down? Excuse me. Would you please sit down? Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now that the House of
Very
Representatives
hostile.
has fled,
It's such a hostile media. It's so sad. You ask me about, no, you rudely interrupted him. You rudely interrupted him.
How do you respond to critics who say that your message on the campaign towards minorities have been polarizing?
I don't think it has been at all.
But is the election of two Muslim women, one of them is veiled to the House, which is making history. Is this a rebuke of this
I
message,
don't
do you
understand
think?
what you're saying. What?
I'm from Brooklyn, so you'll understand me.
I understand you very well.
Some say that you could stop all this by
I
declassifying.
could fire everybody right now, but I don't want to stop it because
about the
politically I don't like stopping it. Go ahead.
What about the declassification of the documents? Some say that that would clear
Well,
it all
we're
up.
looking at that. No,
You're
no,
still
we're looking
considering
at
it?
that very seriously. Declassification, we're looking at very seriously.
Okay, can I ask one more question?
It's amazing how people on the other side just don't want those documents declassified.
We
But
now have a divided Congress. It's unlikely to pass
That's right.
any pro-life bills.
Very tough issue.
How are you going to push forward your pro-life agenda?
Just going to push. I've been pushing.
Have you seen any evidence that Russia or China intervened in yesterday's election?
Well, we're going to make a full report.
That was President Putin who annexed Crimea, sir.
That was President Obama's regime. That was during President Obama, right? That was not during me.
But it
That
was
during-
President
No, that was
Putin, sir, who
President
did the
Obama.
annexation.
No.
You're a man who likes to win, but last night was not an absolute victory for you.
I'll be honest. I thought it was a very close to complete victory.
Is that a trade-off that you would be willing to make
Well,
and
it
able
could
to
be.
enact a middle
You know
class
that
tax?
this will have to be.
And just because the markets would want to know, sir, some adjustment, would that be 1%, 2%, 3% on either
I'm
side?
not
It's
telling
too
you that.
early.
I'm just saying.
We're eager to hear about them. Is
Well, I
General, is
think
General
what I'll
Kelly
do
going to
is
stay on?
As we make changes, we'll sit down and talk to you about it. I mean, there's no great secret.
Sir, you've got a lot of White House staff. Some have been talking about leaving. General Kelly has been
Well,
rumored
that's
to
okay.
be leaving.
No,
Is
people
he-
leave. People leave.
And is that going to happen?
People
sir?
leave. I haven't heard about John Kelly.
This has been a very challenging campaign. This has been a
It's
very
been
challenging
it's been a
campaign.
very challenging campaign.
It has
That's
involved
true.
quite a lot of abuse and a lot of violence. People have died during the course of this campaign.
How would you say over the last 2 years, God plays, what kind of a factor he plays in the day-to-day execution of the office of the
Well,
president?
God plays a big factor in my life.
Which loss last night surprised you the most, and which of these unsuccessful candidates are you most likely to consider for
Nothing
a future
surprises me in
administration?
politics.
Would you
But
consider
there were
any
some
of the-
losses.
And you also said you might extend an olive branch.
I
What would
love
that
to
look
have-
like?
I would love to have. I'd be very good at a low tone.
Can you just how you focus on the economic?
Where are you from, please?
Japan.
Okay.
And it's
Say
Abe.
hello. Say hello to Shinzo. I really don't understand you.
How would you focus on trade and economic issues?
Trade with Japan?
Yes.
Secretary Pompeo's talks about North Korea have been postponed. What is happening there, and
Yeah,
will
nothing.
your meeting still
No,
happen with?
We're going to change it because of trips that are being made.
Anti-Semitic incidents have increased by 57% since 2016. Hate crimes are on the rise. Why do you think that is, and what will you do about it?
It's
as
very
president?
sad to see it. I hate to see it.
What about healing the divides in this country
Well,
and
we want to
addressing
see
those
we want to
issues
see it healed. And
specifically?
one of
How
the
do you see your role as
Go
a
ahead.
moral leader?
Go ahead,
Mr.
please.
President, just
Go
how
ahead,
do you see your
please,
role as a
please.
moral
Go
leader?
ahead. There's so many people. I'm sorry.
As a moral
Go
leader,
ahead.
though.
You said earlier in this press conference that Democrats had a choice that you would not work with them on legislation if they were investigating you. Do you not have a choice in the matter as well? Don't you
No,
have
I
a
think it's
responsibility?
inappropriate. No. I think it's very inappropriate.
Hi, Mr. President. Yami Shelsunder with PBS NewsHour. On the campaign trail, you called yourself a nationalist. Some people saw that as emboldening white nationalists. Now people are also
I don't
saying
know why you'd
that
say
the
that.
president.
That's such a racist
There are
question.
some people that say that now the Republican Party is seen as supporting white nationalists
Oh, I
because
don't
of your
believe
rhetoric.
that. I don't
What do
believe
you make
that.
of that?
I don't believe.
And Mr.
Okay,
President,
please, go ahead.
Mr.
Go
President,
ahead.
people have you
Go
talked
ahead.
about
Excuse me.
you talked about middle class tax cuts on the campaign trail. How will you get Democrats to support that policy? Or
You have to ask
support that?
them.
Well,
Hey,
what's your
no,
plan for
excuse
working with
me. You know how
Democrats on a
my
middle
plan
class
is?
tax plan?
You know what my plan is? I'll ask them.
What did she say to you, though, yesterday that made
We had a
you
great
give her
conversation.
support? your
Honestly,
support?
we had a very warm conversation.
Did she promise
She's had
that
a
they
very-
wouldn't seek to impeach
She's
you?
had a very, very. We didn't talk about it.
Okay,
Yeah,
regarding
go ahead,
all of the
please.
retirements in the House, Mr. President, very quickly, you suggested
Who
that
is retiring?
You said that many of the retirements that happened in the House made it very difficult.
Many retirements, yeah.
That made it very difficult for you in this election cycle, and that it was because they were chairmanships that were vacated. But Jeff Flake wasn't a chairman of a committee, and Paul Ryan also retired the cycle. So why do you think that is? Whose fault is it that there
In
were so many
Jeff Flake's
retirements?
case, it's me. Pure and simple.
Thank you, Mr.
Jeff
President.
Flake, that's another beauty. Go ahead.
2 questions, please.
No, one. Too many people.
All right.
Sorry.
All right. You seem to enjoy this venue very much. Are you going to make the standard press conference a staple of the remaining
No.
2 years, or
No.
will you have more briefings with
No.
Sarah Sanders?
No, you did. Excuse me. Well, you complained about access when I purposely just stayed away from the press for a while because I wanted to see how it worked. And can I be honest with you? It didn't work well.
Mr. President, I didn't
It didn't
finish
work
the
well.
question. So Sarah will stay on as press secretary.
Okay, please, go ahead. No, go ahead.
First off, I personally think it's very good to have you here because a free press and this
I
type
do
of
too.
engagement.
Actually, I do too.
Yes, it's vital to
It's called
democracy.
earned media. It's worth billions. Go ahead.
So I have 2 questions for you, if that's all right. It's a rare opportunity. First, just a point of clarification on the tax returns issue. You brought up the audit. That doesn't prevent you from releasing them.
I know it. Oh, sure.
Right,
But
but it-
I didn't say it prevented me. I said lawyers will tell you not to do it.
But
Go
if the
ahead. What's
Demo-
your next question? Go
if-
ahead. Come
well,
on, let's go.
Just on
More
that.
exciting
Okay.
question than that, please.
Second one. Michael Cohen recently said you called black voters stupid.
That's false.
Omarosa has accused you of using the N-word, and the
That's false.
rapper Little John has said you called him Uncle Tom. What's your response?
I don't know who Little John is. I really
was on
don't.
The Apprentice.
I don't know. Oh, he was? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Have you ever
I
made
don't know.
racist
No,
remarks?
No, I would never do that, and I don't use racist remarks. And you know what? If I did, you would have known about it. I've been hearing there are tapes for years and years. There are tapes.
One point of fact, because you told her you have
Quiet,
the highest
quiet,
approval among
quiet,
African
quiet. Go
Americans.
ahead.
It's just 8%, sir, single digits.
See, when you talk about division, it's people like this that cause division. Great division. No, point of fact is that I never used a racist remark. That's the point of fact. Who are you from?
I'm from Yahoo News.
Yahoo? No, good. Good. I hope they're doing well.
MTV Lebanon, Ellen Dorgan. So first question.
Where are you from?
MTV Lebanon. Lebanon.
Oh, Lebanon. Good.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. President. We're so happy to be here as well, have this opportunity. President Erdogan said he's not going to follow your sanctions and he's going to keep buying oil from...
Who said that?
President Erdogan, Turkey.
I know.
And you're going
Mr.
Yes, please,
President,
go ahead.
can you address the...
We'll take a couple of more and then we'll go.
Can you address concerns in places like Georgia where people waited in line to vote for hours, where voting machines weren't working in certain districts, and
You
there
think that's the
wasn't power?
reason that the candidate lost?
Well, there are concerns being raised that it wasn't.
I wasn't
equal access
involved in
to-
Georgia.
I know, but
other than
as
other than I
president-
love the state. I
Yes,
do
but
love
as
the state.
president of the United States, are you concerned about the access that people are having to voting?
I heard it was very efficient in Georgia.
You expressed some concerns about social media companies unfairly censoring conservatives during the election. Do you anticipate working with Democrats to regulate these companies, or are you satisfied with
I
the
would
way
do
things
that.
are?
Yeah, I would look at that very seriously. I think it's a serious problem. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Former President Barack Obama famously said that he had a pen and a phone to use executive power on issues like immigration. Do you see yourself using executive power to get some of your immigration agenda done?
Also, on the Khashoggi matter, we've been more than a month since the death of Mr. Khashoggi,
Yeah.
the journalist.
Very sad thing. Very terrible thing.
Do you think Saudi Arabia is guilty of having him murdered? And if so,
I'll
what
have a
kind of
much
punishment will be
stronger
involved?
opinion on that subject over the next week. And
Mr. President, just a quick follow-up. You said something about Nancy Pelosi. You said that Nancy Pelosi, she loves our country. Do you regret some of the things you said during the campaign? I mean,
No.
various times you said Democrats want to put a wrecking ball to our future,
Well, I
want to
believe
destroy
that.
our country.
I believe that. With their current policy, they're using a wrecking ball on our country. I believe. Okay, how about one more?
Do you
Go
regret
ahead.
the ad? Do you regret the ad that you did that was branded as a racist ad, and even Fox
No, I
News
don't.
wouldn't air it,
No.
NBC wouldn't
Do
air it,
I
other
regret it?
networks? Yeah.
Surprised you asked me that question. I do not.
Do you believe that white supremacist terrorists, right-wing terrorists, these homegrown terrorists on that side of the spectrum are a problem, sir? And
Yeah,
what is
I
your
do.
administration
I do
going to do
believe
about
that's a
it?
problem. I believe all hate is a problem, but I do believe that is a problem.
What are you going
and
to
it's
do
a
about it,
problem
sir?
we want to solve.
How,
okay.
sir? What are you
go
going
ahead.
to do about it,
Go ahead.
Sir, what are you going to do about it?
Go ahead.
You cut off the funding.
Many local districts across the country rejected your midterm message, particularly suburban women. How do you bridge that divide now? Also with the